Yeah, and just as she was voted in, news came in from the EU's climate service, and it said every month of last year has set a new global temperature record.
Those rising temperatures are having effects that I hadn't thought about. Great. You may have seen the terrifying footage of the Singapore flight a few weeks back.
Yeah, horrifying, terrifying stuff of nightmares.
So that was a flight where a plane plummeted over 1,000 feet in 3 seconds. And then anyone not wearing seatbelts was catapulted into the ceiling. And here are 2 passengers describing their ordeal.
I think we both thought it was the end.
Yeah, I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone was thinking on that plane. You could hear people making like last-minute phone calls and voice messages to family members, and it was quite a weird experience.
Less reported, though, was a flight from Doha in Qatar to Dublin in Ireland, which went through something similar.
What happened there?
So 6 people ended up in hospital with injuries from that flight. And to talk about the climate change angle in all this, we have our climate colleague in BBC News, Esme Stallard, with us. Hello, Esme.
Hello, guys.
Esme, you wrote about this turbulence for the website, didn't you? What's going on with these flights?
Well, I'm sure anyone that's flown might have experienced a little bit of turbulence. There's lots of reasons for it, but basically there are different forces acting on a plane, and that can happen when we basically get a change in air. And that can happen when there's bad weather, sometimes when there's buildings or mountains in the way, which changes the way the air reacts around the plane, or even sometimes when there's a plane in front of you and some of the air movement from behind that plane can also affect you. Now, in these 2 flights, particularly the Singapore one, we don't know exactly what caused the turbulence. We think because it was severe turbulence, which is quite rare, it's likely to be caused by 2 things, really. Either it was thunderstorms or it was something called clear air turbulence, which is quite a rare phenomenon, but really challenging to predict.
Okay, clear air turbulence. So clear air isn't good in this instance, is it?
It isn't good because you can't see it. So if you are a pilot and you are driving, is that the right word? I don't know. Flying the plane? Flying. That's it. That's the word. Flying the plane. You can probably see the thunderstorms ahead, and the Met Office can predict those. So it's more easy to sort of alter your route depending on where they are. Clear air turbulence, as the name suggests, you cannot see it. There are pockets where it's more likely to occur, but really what's happening is that there's a change of wind direction around the jet stream, which is this really fast flowing river of air around sort of 30 to 60,000 feet. So a difficult one to see and can result in severe turbulence if you come across it.
So is there going to be more of this clear air turbulence because of the changing climate?
Well, there was a really interesting study last year from scientists at Reading University which looked at clear air turbulence, particularly within the North Atlantic. And they found between 1979 and 2020, that type of turbulence had increased by 55%. So that's quite significant. And the reason they think that is because that warmer air that we're getting from climate change and from increasing greenhouse gas emissions is changing the wind speed around the jet stream. So certainly it seems that clear air turbulence might become more of an issue in the future.
Right, and as well as clear air turbulence, you also mentioned thunderstorms may have been a cause. I think thunderstorms are a bit trickier to know what's happening when it comes to climate change. Are they on the rise? Do we know?
It is tricky because when we talk about thunderstorms, we're not just talking about rain, right? We're talking about wind, we're talking about hail and things like that. But what we do know is that tropical storms, which is where that Singapore flight was flying in, within that region where tropical storms occur, we know that they are increasing because of climate change. There's strong evidence for that from the UN climate science body, the IPCC. And the reason for that is kind of twofold. So when we're warming our planet up, a lot of that warmth is absorbed by our oceans. And that means you're going to get more water evaporating and more heat being added into the atmosphere. At the same time, the air, when it's warmer, can absorb more of that moisture. So if you think about it, we're getting more moisture in the air and we're getting hotter, which is all just the perfect conditions for creating more of a stronger tropical storm. And we know for the Singapore flight that there were tropical storms nearby at the time, although they haven't finalised that is the reason, but that could be another reason for the severe turbulence that was experienced.
As someone who doesn't like flying, this doesn't sound like very good news. So climate change is likely making turbulence more intense and more frequent. Can I ask my pilot to avoid it? Can they take a different route?
So I want to reiterate, severe turbulence is rare to the extent that we're talking about. What pilots can do is, and they do this, is they spend a long time planning their routes. They take in a lot of evidence from meteorological organisations. So for thunderstorms, they are more easy, say, than clearer turbulence to predict and to navigate around. But like I said before, there are areas within kind of a flight path which are highlighted as maybe at-risk areas for this clear air turbulence, so they can do that. But I would say one thing you can do as a passenger is always keep your seatbelt on unless you sort of need to go to toilet. Often when that little sign flicks off after you've taken off, you think, oh great, I take my seatbelt off, I can relax. But actually, as we saw in the Singapore flight, sometimes there is absolutely no warning it's about to happen, and those people that were injured were those not wearing their seatbelts.
Or not go to the toilet on the flight, which is something I used to do when I was really little, when we used to fly over and see family in the US, which is a very long flight, because I was terrified of the noise those toilets used to make.
Yeah, I'm not sure fellow passengers would appreciate if you wet the seat, but I don't know, maybe
I was
be
little,
safe.
6, 7.